Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, Anfield Nights. Every Tuesday, we're happy to be here, and this week I'm joined with Paul and Colin. Start with Paul. How you doing, Paul?
I am doing well. Kind of a little bit bittersweet. I would love to be in a championship race with one more game to go with a chance to win it. But on the other side, if we're not going to win it, then I prefer it to be this way rather than to think I have a chance and then to have it snatched away on the last day. So I don't know. I'm doing okay, but we'll see how the week pans out. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I'm sitting where you are, where I'd rather not have another nail-biting end to the season that we ultimately lose because Gerrard takes off Coutinho, or who was, I think, what was City playing like Brighton one year or somebody ridiculous, beat them 6-1 on the last day of the season while we were hoping they'd lose. But Colin, how you doing? Do you feel any sympathy for Arsenal today?
None. Absolutely not. No.
Come on, Colin.
No, because they didn't show us any when we were losing it on the last day. No, I would probably prefer them to win rather than City just continue to keep winning. But I don't have any sympathy for them and being like, oh, City's gonna beat us to it. Yeah, they are. They're machines. Like I started betting against my own happiness like 6 weeks ago and just betting Arsenal and City to win every game. And I just take the two of them, Arsenal, City to win. And I'm having a great time in terms of, winnings. I'm not having a great time in terms of, seeing Liverpool not win, but if I'm not going to see Liverpool win the title, I might as well be making some money off it. So that's where I'm at. That's where I've been. But I'm so happy to be here. I'm thrilled to be back. I've been coaching lacrosse now this is like my 8th year coaching lacrosse, but Tuesdays were booked, so now I'm back. Thrilled to be here.
Definitely glad to have you back, Colin, and definitely a great way to hedge your bets for paying for Liverpool is bet against them. At least your wallet's thanking you. But
correct.
Yeah, we've had a lot of experience of watching some pretty tight seasons, cup final failures. So yeah, I'm not too sympathetic towards Arsenal at the moment, but I do feel like they've earned their badge of knowing what it's like competing against the City all the way to the final day of the season. We'll see. It's not over. You never know. But Paul, I'm going to jump to the end of the title of the video first to talk about, because for me, I'd rather start and end talking about Klopp and this Liverpool, this era, this journey, this decade that we've pretty much had with Klopp. I know you've been following the team for 30 years. It's been 15 plus for me, but as the veteran of this crew, how would you rank Klopp? How do you feel as it's coming to the end of his tenure at the club?
I have mixed emotions, to be honest, because when we signed the club, I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. At the time of the signing, if you had offered me 8-9 years with one Premier League trophy, bear in mind that we hadn't won for like decades, 2 Champions League finals, win 1, 2 Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Club World Cup. Basically, if you had offered me at least one of everything in 8 years, I would have gladly accepted. I would bite your hands off. But then having lived through it and to see just how close we came on multiple years to be much greater, it's kind of a bittersweet. I've had some years where it took me literally until the start of the next season for me to get over the pain of the season that just ended. I don't think we will live again to see a team with 97 points and don't win. That was our 2019, I think. And that year, there's always something that goes against us. That's you can't blame Klopp for. Vincent Kompany, that postage stamp to win that game haunts me to this day. And then, if you think about, I think it was 2021 where we were 92 and City 93. The gods were just against us because about 2 or 3 games before the end of the season, City was playing Everton away. And if we just needed Everton to take some points off City because they were leading us by 1 point. City was leading by one goal, and it was about 5 minutes to go, and there was a clear penalty, handball penalty, which if Everton had scored that penalty, it would have been, we would have won the championship. And the PGMOL came out the week after and says, it should have been a penalty. That thing irks me. But it gets worse. The final day, we needed to win and hope that City drop points. City playing Aston Villa. Who is the manager? Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard is leading. Halftime, I think it was 2-0. We had given up a goal, so we were down, and then we scored and we were up 2-1. And then when I checked the score, we are leading 2-1, and Aston Villa is up 2-0. No, we don't need Aston Villa to win, we just need them to not lose. And so I actually switched from the Liverpool game to the Villa game because we were leading 2 or 3-1. And when that third goal went in, I don't know how I continue to be a Liverpool supporter after that. So there's a lot of stuff that I need to thank Klopp for. He has given us a lot of joy, but his tenure has also inflicted some brutal pain on us. Because prior to Klopp, we were accustomed to not being good. So our trophy was a top 4 and Champions League. So the pain wasn't as severe or as terrible as it was when we came so close in those years. And for whatever reason, we just didn't win. And to top it all off, the year when we won, when we were so far ahead that nobody could touch us, there comes COVID. So again, the gods deny Klopp that, that closeness, that parade with the fans that, we have not seen this for 30 years. So I thank him, and I really, he's the best manager we have had in our lifetime. But there are some pain that, he has brought on us that not his fault, but it's really bittersweet. I know that's been a long drawn out answer, but I just need to get some stuff off my chest as we look forward to a new era with a new manager.
Yeah, I hear you, Paul. It definitely feels like when he came out with his interview saying that he just ran out of energy, it just heart went out to him, and you can just, as fans, I feel the same thing. I've said to you guys before, like when we were getting to those last minute wins, like in the League Cup this year or Nottingham Forest, like it was like just a relief. Like I wasn't going batshit or anything. I was just like, oh my God, thank you. Like just drained. And to see Klopp, I think Colin might have made this in our chat, saying he looks like the president, 2-term president from before and after photos. Sorry if I'm misquoting you there, Colin, or misattributing, but certainly he's given everything to the club. And when you see the photos of where he came in to where he is now, you can see how much he's put in. And yeah, it's been an incredible 8 years, but also incredibly draining. Just watching it all, experiencing it all. Colin, what are you left with? How do you feel with Klopp leaving?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I think, once you make that announcement, I think it's become pretty clear that like now is the right time. I was thinking about this after conversations that people were having in the group. I think from yesterday, um, where it's like, it's. I think a lot of people will make the point, well, that it just looks like it's time to move on, and I think that that is true. But also, I think it's true that like it is incredibly emotional. Like they're not, I feel both ways about it. I feel like it is just time, and also, the you feel the hurt of all of the missed opportunities, and you like get to remember the excitement of like the unbelievable triumphs. um you know I- it's totally understandable. I think that he just like does feel like he's run out of energy. If we all feel like this, can you imagine what he must feel like with all of the, it's been pretty well reported that, he does a lot more than just be the manager of, the first team. He's got his hands in a lot of, like daily operation of the club. And, when you have a figurehead like that and he's able to handle all of that kind of those like extra little things, I'm sure that that is like incredibly, incredibly taxing and very, you know, it's hard to like to put your all into something and to not hit the goals that you set. Sometimes from outside circumstances, like Vincent Company crushing a 30-yarder into the postage stamp, like, and sometimes you lose. Sometimes it is your fault. Sometimes you lose the plot, but it's very emotional. I sent in the video, or I sent a video earlier today, that the Anfield Rap teased their interview with Jurgen with like a 45-second clip, and like I was totally emotional and tearing up, and it was like a tiny little clip, and it's like an hour-long interview. I'm like, I'm gonna be an absolute mess, and I'm gonna be a mess on the weekend too. Um, I think you can be excited that there is this, you know, sort of rebirth on the horizon. And also you can be sad that, that it is ending, and that, we won't have anybody like him ever again. He is absolutely unique. We've discussed this, ad nauseum. He is a true one of one. Replacing him is not possible. Like, you just have to try a different approach to being a modern football club, because you can't have people don't exist like him, um, just on the street corner. So, uh, yeah, very emotional. Drew, what do you feel?
Similar. I think I'm still drained. Like from this
Yeah,
season. It's been kind of nice to wake up and watch games on the West Coast early and not be completely like to the red zone on my nerve levels. Just kind of being able to appreciate. And I think Jay Muse put it up in the chat earlier. Anyone catch the photos of Klopp staring at the seats at Anfield today? And that got me. I saw the videos on X, and like I was just like, man, it's been an incredible 8 years. Almost half my time of as a Liverpool fan. I think I started watching around like 2008, so it's been a while for me. And he's been the manager for about half that time, and it's like certainly frustration at the years that just like were right there, and whether it was like, it felt like a team performance that let us down, or the countless refereeing mistakes, or Man City, um, you know charges, whatever. I don't like to look at those things. I always think like do what you can with what you have like in your hands and don't give it away. I think as soon as Arsenal gave it away to City, that every Liverpool fan's probably like, that's it. I think we experienced that firsthand. So, but the memories Klopp has left us with, I think, are always going to be there. Like the frustrations, definitely will be a part of the history. But I don't know. I think back to, for example, one of my favorite players that I've seen play for the club is Luis Suarez, and like to see just to remember those beautiful matches, or the like I still remember the game when we beat Arsenal 5-1 when he smashed a ball from like 40 yards out on the turn and it hit the post, or Jamie Carragher's last game of the season hitting the post from like 25 yards out. I think all those moments that you remember as a supporter or just a fan of football, they stick with you. And I think Klopp has given us so many over his 8 years at the club that like, and even if this year, like with how it's kind of ended, I still think the League Cup final with Van Dijk and Klopp kids, like that was one of my favorite finals, just to see them push it over the line and be able to win that trophy. So definitely a lot of emotion, Colin, and I think it's going to be an interesting Sunday. Definitely a lot of tears. I'm excited for change. See what slot brings, but I also don't feel like too negative about the whole thing. I think it just ended. We ran out of energy. Jurgen gave it his all. It's time for a change, but at the same time, I'd be more heartbroken and depressed if he like left in the manner of like Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, where he's like not like just absolutely half the fan base have like banners in the crowd calling for his removal, like that kind of thing. I hate that, and the fact that Klopp was able to leave on his own terms, it might not be the fairy tale ending that we could have had, but he certainly gave us a fairy tale story while he's been at the club, and there's just so much love and thanks for that man. But that's where we're at now, and I'll leave you guys with this. We'll circle back to end the stream, but I want top 5 Klopp moments from you guys at the end of the stream. So I'll give you time to let that percolate throughout the stream, and a quick jump before we move on to other topics. Anyone who's watching on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you want to jump over to the YouTube page and get any questions or comments in, we'd appreciate it. We really are grateful for anyone who chimes in, who's watching. We love doing this every Tuesday night, the Star Stripes Anfield nights. This is for our audiences outside the UK. If you're in the UK up at ungodly hours right now, definitely appreciate you watching, but appreciate everyone on the stream and everyone every week who chimes in. And we'll move on. This is a question that Paul asked, or we were kicking around before the stream, and Paul brought this up. As we're transitioning from Klopp to Slot into the team, Paul asked before the stream, do you think taking players from your former club, like a manager or coach from his former club, do you think that's a taboo question or a taboo issue? Do you think managers should or should not do that? First, if you're in the comment section, give us your thoughts and opinions on that. Do you think a manager should be able to cherry pick from his previous club? Just what your opinion is on that matter. And Paul, I'll give you the chance to answer this one first, since it's your question. Where do you sit on that line for taking players from your previous club?
It doesn't really bother me. I know a lot of people are not for that kind of stuff, because there are evidence of quite a few managers that move with their players, and it didn't work out. Of course, the most recent failure is Ten Hag paying some ridiculous money, I think 80-something million pounds for Anthony. And the guy probably wasn't even worth 25 million. But on the flip side, if a manager is coming to a new club, I think he needs to sit down with the sporting director and identify what are the areas of greatest need. And then if he has a player or two or three that fits those needs, and the sporting director, in this case, we have experienced people. So it wouldn't be a case of of a slot just bringing Mats Weaver or Hanko or Gertrude or whoever. It would be, but there's nothing wrong in the manager saying, hey, this left back or this center back or this right back, I think would, make our team better. If in the opinion of the sporting director, he's correct, there is good value for money, and there aren't better options available out there in terms of available talent / price, then by all means, go for it. So guess what I'm saying is the player from his former team should not have an advantage because the manager knows them. But it also means that the player from his former team should not be overlooked because of the taboo of a manager bringing his own player. So the fact that the decision will not be left entirely up to Slot, and Edwards and company are the ones that will make the ultimate decision. If we end up with 2 or 3 or 4 Feyenoord players, I would be fine. And if we end up with 0, and if Slot want to bring 2 or 3 and Edwards said nope, I'm also fine. But I wouldn't just automatically say no because there have been some failures. I think our management team is smart enough to go for the correct players. And there's nothing wrong if Slot like the player, but at the end of the day, others within the club has to be convinced that this player for this cost is good and is an asset for us. But other than that, I'm fine.
Colin, where do you sit on the fence for this one? Are you against a manager bringing players from his old club? And that'd be part 1. And part 2, would you be okay with Slot picking players from Feyenoord?
I mean, similarly to Paul, I don't think it's, or rather, it should not be a blanket sort of policy on not taking players from the previous club, or absolutely taking players because, well, I just think that that they'll work. The most exciting thing I think for me about this new Liverpool rebirth is not who the new manager is. It's not the young talent that we have. It's the reintroduction of these prominent executives into positions of decision-making power. Michael Edwards, chiefly among them. I have supreme confidence in knowing that whomever is brought in is absolutely going to be Michael Edwards and his department, their preferred choice. That the person that they bring in is going to be someone who checks all the boxes, who is in the highest, the highest of importance, like data rankings, and whomever it is, whether that is someone at Feyenoord or whether it is not someone at Feyenoord. I like truly believe that like whomever is being purchased, that they are going to meet the criteria of the new the backroom staff teams that have been put into power. And I think that is exactly why they have been reintroduced, which is that there will be discussions. Hopefully there have already been discussions with Arne Slot and in discussing who who he might see, what the highest priority is, and whether or not those are going to be acted upon. And if they do, and if their metrics work, then yes, by all means, bring in, Matt Svifa or whomever it might be. But I know that whomever is being purchased will be meeting all of those criteria set, and they will be the right price, and they will be, value for money, all of those things. To me, that is what is most exciting about it. And so when it comes down to, like, should it be a Feyenoord players, like, I don't know. I'm not sure if they meet the metric. If they don't do it. I don't see that as necessarily a binary. So that, to me, that is the most exciting part of the upcoming summer and the next several years.
No, I agree with that. That for me brings me confidence in our recruiting, is the fact that Edward's in charge, Julian back in the saddle as well. It seems like that department has finally been solidified and has done us a lot of good over the years. Pretty sure, looking back, what was it? The classic one was Klopp not wanting Salah, was it Brandt instead, and Edwards giving the veto on that. And it seems like Slot is amenable to that, just being the coach, his official title, not manager, but coach. So it definitely gives me optimism as far as transfers and recruitments go. For me, I kind of am more against it, just from the history that I've seen with our club. Like, when I'm looking back to Rodgers, was it Barini? I liked Joe Allen, but I don't think I like Joe Allen, so I don't want to talk too negatively about him. But Barini was the one where I thought was a pretty shocking transfer, and still he went on to play for some amazing clubs. I think AC Milan, one of them. His agent must have been unreal. But before that, Hodgson, what was it? He got Paulson, he got Konchesky. I think it can be, and as Paul saying with Ten Hag, the latest with Anthony. I think that, that is just cherry picking from me for managers who picked poorly. Arteta picked Zinchenko, who I thought was something that they needed their first season. He's a bit of a liability in defense, but Jesus, I think it depends on the manager, depends on the club. I think they more often than not don't work out. Maybe that's just something that are my tinted glasses, but as you both have said, Edwards, the recruitment team will definitely not let something like slot tinted glasses for Feyenoord affect transfers coming in. So we'll see who we get this summer. But for me, I think just for Slot, he should come in and see who he's got at the team, who he wants to work with, who he thinks will suit what he wants to do, and then go from there. I don't think he should be thinking of who he wants to bring from the start, but that's just my opinion. And as we're talking about transfers, we'll finally get to the transfer rumors that we've got at the title of this video. And we'll start with Khéphren Thuram. This was somebody we were linked with heavily last year. It just ended up being, I think there were, rumors about his agent wanting too much money, him wanting too much money, and then injury. But here's a player that I got very excited about watching all those YouTube videos over the summer. I'm on the fence of whether we need him or not as a midfield option. But Paul, what are your thoughts on Khéphren Thuram, and would you want him at the club?
It's kind of funny how sometimes time can change your opinion without even much additional information. Because a year or so ago, when he was the boss, and then we hear that it was 35 million pounds or euros, I think, was Nice wanted, and he was demanding 150k a week. I was saying, pay the guy, get the transfer done, because he seems to be the profile that we absolutely needed. And I myself had watched so many YouTube videos. Well, what that has taught me is that you can pick any player who has played any football, and you can put together, a nice montage of YouTube videos, and they can come across as Messi or R9 or whatever it is. But then I've watched him a few games in the under 21 last year because we were linked to him. It was between him and Manu Kone at the time. So the first time I really got a chance to really follow him was in that under 21 tournament, where I watched literally every minute that he played in that under 21 because the Premier League, I think, was paused. And I must say that I came away not really impressed. I mean, he was okay, but I did not see anything that say, we need to get this guy. So I started to wonder, was he benefiting from his last name? So to see now that he's still available, and if what we read today is correct, that he's available for as little as 13 million euros or pounds, because he only has a year left on his contract. In this market, if a player like that is available for that price, and so many teams out there looking for midfielders, you don't even need to look further than Manchester United, because there's a connection. First of all, Manchester United need midfielders way more than we, because their midfield is old. Secondly, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Sir Jim Ratcliffe the owner of Nice, which is where Thuram plays? So if they are not interested, and they should know more about him than we do, because there's the same owner for both clubs, then it stands to reason that he can't be that good, or there's something. Right? So that would probably scare me. But the biggest reason why I would take a pass is the one thing that we don't need right now is another number 8. I think we have enough of those. So unless he's a world beater, I don't think we should be looking for another number 8. So I would take a pass. And that is why, and this is a good lesson for players. When you are at a smaller club and a big club like be it Liverpool, United, any of those top clubs make a push or play for you, you should do whatever you can to make that move, because you never know what's going to happen next year. The guy from Fluminense, say Andre, is another example. We actually went for the guy with 30 million euros in our hand, and he said, "Nope, I'll come January." Right? Because we were told that there was Liverpool, there was Arsenal, there was Fulham. All of these clubs were after this guy, Andre. All of us were even watching the Copa what's the name? Copa, help me call it.
Libertadores.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
Right.
you best believe that I was watching some dodgy
Yeah.
streams of Fulminese playing,
Right.
for no reason, none.
Right. And we moved on, and the guy seems to be going downhill since then. First of all, nobody seems to want him because his price is going down. I just noticed also that last week he was absent from the Brazilian national team. He was in the team last year, and they just announced the team earlier this week or late last week. And even with Casemiro out, Fred no longer around, he was still not in the team. So that is telling me that sometimes we need to allow time, and we need to allow some of these players to really play some more, and we can really see if they're really that good, rather than just jump at the first couple of YouTube highlights and pay all of this kind of money. Amrabat, that's at Manchester United, he had 2 good games in the World Cup, and I was all over, let's go get this guy. And now look at him. So to come back to your question, I don't think we have. I don't think we need to go for Thuram right now because obviously he's not as good as we thought, and I don't think we have space in our team for an average number 8. If he's a world beater, sure, but he's an average number 8, and I don't think we need to splash the cash. He's fine. We're good.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Paul. I think that position seems pretty stacked right now. And I see Robert McGuire here talking about injury-prone players. I was looking at his stats before the stream. Seems like he's missed like 20, 30 days of the season, like every season at Nice. Yeah, he only played 25 matches in Ligue 1. Only I saw on I think it was Transfer Market. It's saying he only missed 4 games through injury. So not sure what his selection's been. I can be honest that I don't follow Ligue 1 like that much at all. Catch highlights here and there, but I looked up on FBref as well, where it compares stats for players across the league, and the things that I saw for him was that he rated 96th percentile on progressive carries and 93 percentile on successful take-ons. So it seems like he's very good at carrying the ball. But as you said, Paul, I don't think we're really struggling in that department. Like if you think of Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, even Curtis Jones can carry the ball pretty well. We've got McAllister, who's been playing as a 6, but also further up the field. I think we have the quality on the ball to, we'll see, especially with Slot coming in. Again, I think it goes back to, him assessing what we have at the team. And I don't think that another number 8, as you said, Paul, is really top of our shopping list. But as much as he excited me last summer with all those fancy glitzy YouTube videos, how do you feel, Colin? Do you think if we could get him for like 30 mil, would that be worth taking a punt
on? 30, I would say no. If you're realistically, I don't know. I feel like to that point in particular, we got Thiago for 30, and like just on business, like for the amount of money that you pay for what the potential return on a player quality like that was, like very well worth the 30 million, like very well worth it. And I don't think that 30 is like a crazy amount of money for an investment for a player who I think we could all agree has a very high potential ceiling. Whether or not they will actually reach that is absolutely another thing entirely. I feel like if we could, what did you say that there was rumors about as low as
13 million pounds?
Listen, and I think this across the board. If anybody can get a deal for him done less than 20 million, I think that is good business. Like, I just think the amount of money that you're paying for the potential upside, like, is worth it. To your point before, Paula, I don't know what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's ownership stake is, or if that has changed since his ownership in Manchester United has come into actual effect. I don't know that it has changed. I don't think it has, but I'm not sure. To your point, like if it was them, like I think that's good business too. I mean, it's definitely good business if you compare it to whatever they paid for Mason Mount versus what they got out of Mason.
Right.
So, or Anthony, just absolutely like useless players for 4 times the money. So I'm not inherently against that. I don't know if that is the profile of player that we would really most need. But again, I don't know how a potential price tag plays into the recruitment teams thinking about whether or not that is worth pulling the trigger on. And you have to, I think, take into account too that if we are going to be playing 4-2-3-1, that really you only really have like 2 true midfielders you know, you have two true midfielders and someone who's a 10 or could be, you know, playing as a second striker, or, you know, someone who's closer to the striker than they are to the responsibilities of, you know, the 2 6s. And to your point, I don't know that we need any more 8s who are going to be playing, you know, a double pivot 6. I don't know that we need any more of those. And I definitely don't think that we do if we expect Steph Bajcetic to have a full season. So I don't know if it makes sense bringing in that player profile for the price. I don't think it's bad business. I think that's very cheap for potential upside.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I imagine there'll be at least 2 transfers coming in the summer, but I don't know if Thuram meets our most dire needs at the moment. But one position that does potentially need a look at, especially with Matip most likely moving on / not being reliable for a whole season. Unfortunately, love Matip. His goal against Leeds will forever epitomize his career for me. With those runs forward, minus those little funny comical scenes that he has when he gets annoyed at a ref. But it seems like he's moving on. I don't know if Konate can be relied on to stay fit all season, which I'm a huge fan of Konate. Gomez, I love Gomez. Seems to be taking the James Milner role, but Kwanzaa, I know Paul's a huge fan of Kwanzaa, rightly so. I'd argue as well, Paul was ahead of everyone else in saying Kwanzaa should be number 2 after Verge, even above Konate. I'm starting to see that now. But center back does look like a position that we need at least one more to
2.
come in to very least replace Matip, potentially to make sure that there's no injury-prone crisis scenario. Do you think, Paul, we'll start with you. Do you think something, Sepp Vandenberg could step in and play a role? Do you think that's somebody we already have? Or do you think someone like a Leny Yoro, 18 years old, on Lille, has already had an incredible season? From what I was looking at, they're third in Liga, and he's been a part of that team, big part of that team this season. 31 games this year at 18 years old. Pass completion 92 percentile on FBref. Seems like a very good young prospect. Is that the kind of player that you'd bring in when you say 2 center backs? Would you bring someone 19 or 18 years old from Ligue 1? And where do you sit on that debate for center backs?
I am a little hesitant to drop 60 million on an 18-year-old centre back that's playing in that league. Yes, he could turn out to be the next Van Dijk, but I think it's a greater chance that it turns out to be a flop. So it's not my money, but at the same time, as a supporter, I want the best for my club. So when you look at buying players, you have to balance the potential risk versus the outlay of cash that's needed, and balance it against what else could you have done with that cash. If the player is 18, it means that he's not very experienced and there is a potential that he could go south. So is it better to take a risk on one player for 60 million or to buy 2 young players for 30 million? You can look at it either way. But why I say I think we need 2 center backs, because I'm not so sure how much confidence I have with in Konate. I think he is a solid defender when he's fit, but he seems to be a little bit fragile. And he's not exactly the type of ball-playing centre-back that we need if we're going to transition to a possession-based football system. He's good in the air, he's commanding, and he can defend, but he's not that great on the ball. So this is where I think Konate, Kwanzaa is ahead of him, or I should say Kwanzaa's potential. Even Kwanzaa is not ahead of him right now. You could see the potential in Kwanzaa that you could safely say in another 2 years, with more time, more experience, more training, more coaching, then Kwanzaa seems to have the potential to be the next Verge. Because if you assume that Verge of another 2 or 3 years at the absolute top, then Kwanzaa seems to me to be the person who should be the heir apparent. Now, we have talked a lot about left-footed centre back because our team is unbalanced. But we just don't need any left-footed centre back. We need a centre back that's also comfortable playing left back as well, for a number of reasons. One, I can't recall ever seeing Verge play as a right centre back. He has always played on the left side for us with either Matip or Konate or Gomez or whoever on the right side. When he plays for his country, he plays either on the left side, or if they play a back three, then he's the center. So, but if we get a left-sided centre back, he has to be able to play as a left back as well, so that if Verge wants to stay where he is, then this guy can play as a left back and can add to the offense. And why I think that is important is that the game keeps changing. I think you are going to see less of that traditional fullback bombing down the left and bombing down the right that we're accustomed to, especially for teams like that want to play a possession-based football. If you take Man City, for example, and I always refer to them because they are the standard, right? Teams now with the possession-based, it is very important that you are not just attacking, but also very solid at the back. And I don't know if you notice how many teams now are actually playing with 4 centre backs, right? Because even on the left side of Man City, they don't really have a left back, They either use Nathan Aki, who's left-footed, but he's a centre back, or they're using Guardiola. He's left-footed centre back, but he's playing left back, right? So what that does is that when you are forced to defend with 4 centre backs on the field, you are more solid than have a guy like, say, Robbo, who might be fast, speedy down the left side, but is not the greatest in your box if he's defending corners, set piece, and stuff like that. So I want 1 or 2 left-footed centre back, one that's ready to play right now, and a younger guy that we can spend, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 million that has potential. Because I am tired of the amount of chances that we're giving up game after game after game. It doesn't matter whether we're playing a top 6 opponent or we're playing a team that's struggling against relegation. We are giving up too many chances. So I want us to focus on being solid at the back. I prefer us to switch to a possession, solid defensive game, and we are winning 2-0 instead of 4-3 or 5-2 or I am tired of that kind of football. And if you look at across Europe, the game is changing. So as it relates to Sepp Vandenberg, I think the guy deserves a chance. Because when you send players out on loan, it's usually because you believe the player is talented, but for whatever reason, you don't have the ability to give him enough first team minutes with the first team, but you still believe that there's talent there, so you don't want to discard him. So you send him out on loan. So if a player goes out on loan and does very well, the very least you can do is to bring him back into the fold and to see what he can do. So I would hope that I see Sepp Vandenberg back in the fold at least during the preseason, so that we can see him with our own eyes. When I say we, I mean the head coach, and then can make a decision. Because there's kind of pointless you going to spend 25, 30 million if you may have a player already in your team that can do a job. If Kwanzaa was playing for, I don't know, Fulham or Brighton or whatever it is, we would probably be getting calls here to pay 50 million for him. So we need players, but not every solution, every problem is solved by spending 60, 70, 80 million on a Leny Yoro or the next big name. The reason we have scouts is the scouts need to scan the horizon and find us players before the world know them, so and develop them. Why should we be paying 100 million for Caicedo when Brighton paid 5 million for him? Why couldn't we have identified that talent? You know, so that is where I'm thinking. We need 2 centre backs, but we need 2 left-footed centre backs, and I want to see Sepp Vandenberg get an opportunity to see if he really is the guy.
No, I definitely agree with that, Paul. It's crucial to let those homegrown players or just those young players coming through to get a chance. And, you know, like you said, I can only imagine if Klopp didn't have that lesson of the season with COVID, with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams. It seemed like before that he was very against throwing in young players and just throwing them in the deep end. He was good at giving them opportunities and letting them grow in. But Kwanzaa this year, I don't think he plays as many games as he does without that COVID year lesson from Klopp. And then Connor Bradley as well is another one who came up and had a hell of a couple of months for us in the season. And yeah, I'm curious to see if Sepp Vandenberg can step up and give us another center back to look at from youth. I was definitely excited when we got the Leny Yoro, at least links, just because Real Madrid said no to Real Madrid. Take all your points into play, though, Paul. I think you hit the nail on the head. 60 million for an 18-year-old. I look at the growing pains that someone at that age could potentially experience. With Basetic as the prime example. You just don't know how they're going to pan out at that age, and to shell out that much money to bring in a potential character. Yeah, it just doesn't add up, especially with Edwards back at the helm. But Colin, do you have what are your thoughts on Yoro? That kind of profile of player, and would you say center backs one of the highest priorities for summer transfer?
To me, it is the highest priority. I think I've been on the Sepp Vandenberg deserves a chance bandwagon now for like 6 months. To Paul's point one of Paul's points that he made, if you don't send players out on loan, especially to Bundesliga teams, unless you think that there's still potential there. You don't if you think that project is over, you just sell them and be wash your hands with it and keep them moving. He's been a highlight of a bad Mainz team. They're look like they're going to play in the relegation playoff, but they're not a good team, and he's been one of their better players. But it's hard when you get dominated in the way that they have been, to, I think, kind of show that you're a worthwhile player. So I think to me, he is definitely deserving of at least the chance to be in training. If not, I don't know why we've held on this long. I think to me, center back is the most pressing need. Paul was kind of mentioning, possession based, and we already are a possession based team. We have the second most possession of any team in the Premier League, only behind City. Arsenal are behind us. So having possession is not our issue. and we still are giving up goals. To me, that is why that's even more of a pressing issue. Is, you have that much possession, you have that much control supposedly over a game, and we don't do enough with it in terms of seeing it games out, being defensively solid. So having a new or a different defensive structure with some different defensive responsibilities, and maybe, the coaches in different interviews that I've watched have talked about, the way that Liverpool want to press and the way that they press is not as trigger specific as other teams are. They really are. There, of course, are, and things that they look for, or certain tactics that they are not using. But other teams, press in certain ways based on what is happening with the ball. And I'm talking about like individual pressure. So like one of the forward lines, like they'll shield they'll shield the passing lane and then start to give pressure if they take a touch on the right foot. Previous interviews have kind of revealed that like Liverpool don't really do that. There are certain places when they know that they're going to apply pressure, or they want to apply pressure as the ball is moving from center back to right back. But when they do apply pressure, they're all going to stop the ball immediately. So I think maybe to have a different idea of the structure of the pressing, why we pressure, and how we're going to go about that is very interesting to me. And to have, again, to Paul's point, to have a defense that will see games out at 2-0 without making it interesting is going to be great. I think that is certainly something to look forward to. And I think in order to do that, I think a lot of look needs to be given for new center backs. It's hard for me to say that there's any one that is massively standing out from all the rest, other than a couple of people who I do not think are for sale. Schlotterbeck at Dortmund, I think, is just like an unreal player. But I don't know that deal is getting done. Probably not for 100 million. So to me, that seems like probably not something that the new recruitment team would want to do.
If I may come in here, Drew, and give you one stats. Just looking at this season as to why I think centre back is by far the most important position that we need to address. With one game to go in the season, Liverpool have had 9 clean sheets. Arsenal, 18. So that's why we are so far behind. 18, and we have had 9. Everton, 13 clean sheets. So if we are so much more talented, our roster, than Everton, we are a top 3 roster in the Premier League. Everton, bottom 5, right? Everton had 4 more clean sheets than us. If we had 4 more clean sheets than the 9 that we currently have, we probably win in the league, right? Arsenal, 18 clean sheets. Man City and Everton, 13. So yes, we can criticize Darwin for missing all those chances and Salah not very clinical, but we scored enough goals to win the Premier League. It's just that we let in too many. And to be fair, our goalkeepers, be it Alisson or Kelleher, has done reasonably well. So we definitely need to spend some money and address the defense. Do we need a number 6? Probably. But whatever we do, we need to focus on that side of the pitch, in my opinion.
Yeah, no arguments there, Paul. The defense and the goals we conceded this past season have been
ridiculous,
diabolical. But We're gonna bring it back though. Despite the goals conceded this season, Klopp, I still think, can hold his head up high after his 8 years at the club. And I'm going to circle back to that question I asked you both of top 5 Klopp moments in his 8 years at the club. Before I let you both answer that question, as we're wrapping this up, I'm sure Steven's going to get on me for not saying this before, but if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate everyone who joins these Tuesday night Star Stripes and Anfield nights. It's a pleasure to be on stream. Paul and Colin, regular champions of the channel. It's just really something we look forward to each week, and we appreciate everyone who comes in and joins and watches. So thank you all for watching tonight. And we'll end, if you want to throw these in your comments, we'll put them up on screen if you come over to the YouTube page and type in your top 5 Klopp moments from the 8 years at Liverpool. But Paul, I'll give you the chair for first top 5 Klopp moments.
I have a few. Do I have 5? Probably. My favorite, even though we didn't win anything that year, it was Erik ten Hag's first visit to Anfield. That 7-up. And the reason why it's my favorite is this was the first in quite a few years that United is coming to Anfield, and there was a lot of pundits that made them favorite to win that game because we weren't playing that good. They were about 2 or 3 positions ahead of us in the table, right? And they got 7. As a matter of fact, I remember Cody Gakpo. There were a couple of Manchester United players who were saying, "Oh, we rejected him. You guys paid big money for our reject." And I think he scored 2 goals that day. So that is that moment that I don't think I'm going to forget anytime soon. There are a couple more. That game against Everton, where it was 0-0 until almost the end of the game, and then that ball had hit the post and Origi was there. Remember that moment? What I like about that moment was, if you remember, to see Klopp, the game was still progressing, and Klopp is running towards Alisson at the other end. He was so excited, you know. So even though it was a 3 point, but it was a derby. Another game too that comes to mind. Hope I'm not taking all the Collins ones. 2 more.
No crossover so far.
Okay, 2 more. Was it last year? Yes, last year. We lead in Tottenham 3-0. Then they came back to 3-3. And then that Jota goal at the end. And then Klopp pulls his hamstring, celebrated in the face of that official. That was kind of hilarious to see Klopp running and holding on to his hammy. So that gives me a lot of fun. But seriously though, the one that I think I will cherish forever, and this is not, yes, we can talk about the Barcelona 4-0 and the victory against Tottenham in the Champions League final. All of that, I'll leave that for somebody else. But my last one was, we were playing West Brom with 2 or 3 games left in the season. What season was crap that year? We had Hendo and Fabinho playing centre back. Verge was injured, and we were trying desperately to make top 4 for Champions League. And when Alisson, who had just lost his father like the week before, and Alisson scored that header that any number 9 in world football would be proud to score. That is my favorite moment as a fan on the club. That Alisson header, because of what it meant to us at the moment, and the fact that he had just lost his dad. It's one of those things that if you saw it in a movie, it would be too strange to actually believe that could really happen, because it just would not make any sense. So those are the ones that comes to me readily. So I will leave the rest to Colin.
I have some play in the hits, but I have a smuggle. I have 2 honorable mentions, which are the 5-0 win at United, which has given us the great meme of Sir Alex Ferguson sighing, sitting there going, and then there's
Kenny Dalglish.
and then Penny just
just
could not be happier. I mean, it's an iconic moment.
Yeah.
And then the other individual game is that, like, I this is the very beginning of my, like, oh, maybe something's different, is the Klopp's first season, the away game at Norwich. The was it 5-4? What did that game end?
Oh, with Lallana scored in last one.
Yes, where he broke his glasses. Yes.
Yeah.
An incredible, limbs everywhere celebration. We love that. Okay, so my actual top 5. I have Jurgen Klopp's Champions League parade drunkenness. I love it. Like, I love every second of it. I thought it was iconic. Sitting next to Rain Brewster. Who could forget? I didn't know if it was like top 5 moments of like Jurgen individually or like moments of Liverpool under Jurgen. So I kind of threw in a little bit of both. The first like run in to the Champions League final in Kiev when we win in Rome, which is like an unbelievable away. And then the build up to that Champions League final, and then all of the surrounding, one kiss, long live, that whole build up, I was like just really joyous. So I have that at 4. The game not so joyous, but that's okay. I've got running away with the league pre-COVID. There's just nothing better than knowing that you're going to win the game before the game has even kicked off. I think really like just having an era where you are absolutely unbeatable, that you're unbeatable, and so does the opponent, was just so special. No, at number 2, I have Dortmund at home in the Europa League, which is like, maybe if I'm like not, putting the most famous one at 1, like might be my favorite game under Jurgen Klopp. Like the atmosphere for that game was like just unbelievable. And then obviously at number 1, I have Barcelona at home, and that entire run into the Champions League final. Speaking of just knowing you're going to win the game, like just knowing that you're going to win the Champions League final, it didn't matter what Tottenham did. Like I knew we were going to win. I felt it in my bones. And so that is just a really special, that whole like 2 weeks is just a really special time. So
still believe that wasn't a penalty though. Glad we got it.
oh, Paul, I think you're wrong. It's a dead on. That's okay.
If that was against us, I think you'd be mad.
No, his arm's
pointed
up
at
here.
it. Yeah,
His arm is up here. It's too high. It's too high to argue. I can't.
Anyway. If Rodgers should have been a penalty the other year against Everton, Paul.
Okay, all right. Okay, you convinced me. Oh,
all right.
Honorable mention before you come in. Honorable mention for me that final penalty taken by Tsimikas to win the FA Cup.
Oh.
A guy who has never taken a penalty in his life.
Speaking of being scared,
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, we're gonna lose right now. This is gonna be it." Drew, hit me with the top 5.
I think you guys covered most of them. Like for me, Alisson's header, definitely the Origi goal against Everton, the Barcelona game, and as Klopp as a person, there were like just the interviews that he gave. I think I encourage anyone to look at compilations of the interviews where he gave, where he's getting asked about Pep Guardiola, and then he's like, "Oh, it's Pep," and then runs away.
Remember that? I said, "Oh, I mean Pep." Yeah, remember that one?
Pepe. Yeah,
Pepe.
One.
Yeah.
And then I think another one when he was absolutely baffled that he couldn't say brain fuck, and he meant brain fuck, and he didn't know brain fart.
Yeah,
Like
I
the
remember that one.
It's really good.
just those. But I'll end with probably just back at the start, the first interview where he discussed turning us in from doubters into believers, because I think for me that just epitomizes him as a person, where he saw what we needed, and what we needed was belief, and he epitomized that. Like, he was the champion of making us believe again, and that for me just sums up that man, to be able to be one person and bring that much belief to a club, a city, a fan base around the world. I think for me that sums him up. So a little emotional, but certainly it's gonna peak on Sunday seeing him at Anfield for the last time as manager after a game. So we'll wrap it there. But Paul, Colin, thank you for joining tonight. Everyone who's watched, everyone who's commented, really appreciate you joining us on Star Stripes Anfield Nights. We're here every Tuesday, and the channel streams every day. So if you like what you were a part of, please come back for more. And everyone have a great night.